Hey everyone, so I wanted to do a video based on training the core more because it's getting close to summertime and this is where people start to focus more on their belly fat, which I've said plenty of times before comes heavily down to your kitchen and what you're eating and if you're cooking for yourself and if there's nutritional value and also your calorie deficit. If you're at a decent calorie deficit that isn't starving yourself and also you're able to build strength and tone muscle at the same time. It's all about having that mixed together. But when it comes to training the core, I'm talking about the rectus abdominis, which is the outer layer, which is the most visible, the transverse abdominis, which is more about inside, and the obliques, external, internal, which is more so around the side and on the rib cage. So just to get it out of the way, when people have visible abs and the washboard, 12, 8-pack, what have you, that doesn't guarantee that they have a strong core. You could have a Hollywood star, which is Ryan Reynolds for one, who's famous for Deadpool. Visible washboard abs, the guy struggles to do 15 crunches. You could have someone who has a good amount of belly fat and they could do 20 crunches and better mobility and strength through the core. The difference is the function and the strength. So just because someone's abs are showing, that just means that they're at a lower body fat percentage. That doesn't guarantee that their core is strong. And with that, you just got to remember when you're training your core, you're more or less training to protect your back and protect all the contents inside and protect your hips at the same time. So all types of core training are good, but the best ones is where you apply every method the core does. So when people think of core training, they typically think they're doing crunches, but there's other functions that the core actually does, which one major function the core does is actually draw in and stabilize and condense and compresses everything inside, so it gives it good support. And that's a key factor in a lot of lifts we do, whereas a deadlift, a squat. When you're doing a deadlift or a squat and you're coming down, what's stopping your spine from rolling over and overarching is your core compressed and holding it together. So if you have a weak core in a deadlift or in a squat, you're going to show those compensations pretty easily because you're not able to compress and hold that stability. That's where like doing a plank will help you able to teach the draw-in maneuver, or even like involving the core in a glute bridge because you're relying on that to stabilize your inside as well as working through your hips, so you're using your core to somewhat extent. So it's not just the crunch, you also got the component of being able to stabilize all your joints and the muscle groups around and protect the kinetic chain. And you also got like twisting motion, so which is more specific to obliques. External and internal obliques pretty much work together. They just cross over slightly different paths but still the same, but they're involved more in the twisting motions. So you got that function as well. So when you're thinking of your core in the gym, you want to be able to hit those 3 points, those aspects of being able to crunch, yes, so flexing your spine, extending your spine, stabilize and compress, which is more isolated hold type of move, and having a twisting function. So if you get those 3 right, you're hitting all the muscle groups correctly, you're hitting the inside correctly, you're teaching your body to be stronger and not just going for the flexion extension of a crunch. So just keep all that in mind when you do plan core exercises. You can do cool stuff like mountain climbers, you can do stuff like a balanced plank, but also add in those twisting compound exercises as well. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 of those principles applied to core training. And don't get me wrong, I like variety when it comes to core exercises, but you can stick to these 3 styles, remembering you control the intensity, so adding a weight to certain exercises, going a little bit slower, going a little bit faster, going a little bit longer. You control the intensity, so these 3 exercises will help you strengthen your core and also go towards toning the core, but the rest of it comes down to the kitchen and how you apply core activation and other exercises you do. So firstly, we got our isolated exercise, which is the plank. So you can either do it on your hands or on your forearms, which I'll go forearms. You want to make sure that you're in the plank and you're actually using core. So if you're dropping your hips too much or raising them up, zero core activation or very little. So you want to make sure that you're able to keep as steady as you can, and like you're trying to balance something across your back. You might have noticed my knee was slightly bent. That's because my hamstrings tend to get quite tight. Everyone has quite different distortions, but you just work with what you got, and when you're in the plank, try to draw in that core, but also try to keep as flat as you can. Now next one, we got the famous, which is the famous crunch, which everyone associates core work with. Big thing about this is making sure that you're actually using the core muscles to flex your spine to come up, and that you're not rounding your back too much in the anterior pelvic tilt. So firstly, I want to make sure that I'm on camera first. Alright, so if you do kind of arch at the back, in the lower back, what you want to do is tilt your hips down, and sometimes you need to elevate your feet to do that, and you're able to tilt your pelvis posteriorly so you can crunch up. Whereas if you can keep your back flat on the ground, you should have no troubles coming up. But yeah, so you want to keep an eye. Main thing with that is the hips, and that they're not turning your lower back too much. And we've got the last one, which is rotation, which involves the obliques. So with or without a weight, what you want to do is make sure that you're not rounding, and then you're able to push your hips in and pop your chest out and go side to side. Lots of little areas where we compensate based on what we do in everyday life, but little cues to pop you in position make all the difference to the core activation that you're trying to achieve. But yeah, cool.